Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to another session of our Day One and Beyond series, where we take you through a variety of different topics. Our today's session is best practices to manage your database fleet with OCI Database Management. In this session, we will explore Oracle Cloud Infrastructures, or OCI's database management service, a cloud-native solution for monitoring databases deployed anywhere. I'd like to introduce Derek and Stephen as the main presenters. And with that, I will hand it over to Derek to get us started.
Sure, thank you, Olivia. So we'll basically start with the observability management overview of the platform. And so some of you are familiar with this, some of you are learning about it today, so you'll kind of get an idea of what that entails very quickly. Then we'll dive into the database management service itself, so you can get an overview of what we're going to provide for monitoring your databases in today's scope. And then we'll look at fleet management. So this is going to be viewing all of your databases in one single location, being able to run jobs at scale against multiple databases, kind of triage issues across your fleet. And then from there, if you do find these specific issues, you'll be able to drill down into that single database for additional management capabilities. We'll take a look at the performance diagnostics that we can provide for the databases, along with the performance tuning capabilities, some of the administration tasks you can be running through the OCI console. And then we'll be looking at the Exadata deployment, so we can see the infrastructure monitoring for your Exadata deployments, as well as performance diagnostics. So we'll get into some of those details. And then finally, if anybody is utilizing MySQL, we can kind of do a brief touch point on that, just give some information about the MySQL service here. Start covering some of the capabilities that we provide within the observability management platform. So this is our Oracle Cloud solution for monitoring all of your deployments within OCI, on-premise, or other clouds. So you get a comprehensive service with integrations between your services, basically, to provide detailed analysis into all of the capabilities that we offer in OCI. So OCI is comprised of your basic infrastructure services, which would be your compute, your storage, your network, and security. And on top of that, some of the basic capabilities and services that are included within OCI would be those metrics, logs, events, traces, and SQL capabilities. But on top of that is where we've built the observability management platform. So we have more in-depth insights into how your infrastructure is performing, as well as your database resources. So basically, you can see application performance monitoring. You can have traces from the calls from your application down to the infrastructure that it's running on, through any webhooks, URLs, down to the infrastructure that's supporting the database, and to the database itself with your SQL calls. And that kind of all is entailed, and you can find any outliers or slowness across your entire application and drill down to the relevant pain points or bottlenecks that you're seeing there. Stack monitoring provides this full view of your infrastructure supporting your environment, so you get an idea of where you might be having issues. If you have Tomcat deployments, if you have multi-node racks, you can kind of see all of these together in one single location. Logging analysis provides logging details for all of the logs collected against all of your infrastructure resources or resources in general within database or within OCI. So if you're generating logs, you can have a large scale logistics around how your any issues coming from the logs, and kind of tie those together. The database management service, which we'll be covering today, kind of views your administration capabilities and your monitoring capabilities for your databases itself. And then finally, SQL Ops Insights provides advanced capabilities with machine learning around forecasting, capacity planning, a lot of your Exadata infrastructure use cases, looking at historic data and kind of trending how the future is going to be.
So, Derek, it looks like just a few people are using Enterprise Manager, which is our on-premise solution. Manageability, of course, is built into Oracle products, and DBAs have been using Enterprise Manager for quite a long period of time. Whether you know it or not today is not a problem. Just be aware that our strategy is inclusive of Enterprise Manager, which is our on-premise solution for managing databases. And now we're talking about cloud-based database management, and we do have integration between the two. But yeah, it looks like a bunch of new folks, Derek, so please proceed.
Perfect. And so specifically, we'll look at the database management service today, which we do provide a single pane of glass overview for all of your databases, whether they're deployed on premise, whether they're in the Oracle Cloud, or if they're in another supported cloud, such as DB at Azure, and then soon to be the Google Cloud, if you have database deployments running out there, or even AWS, if you have some of those configurations with kind of custom deployments in AWS, you can monitor the Oracle database there. And so we really provide an on-demand, agile, and integrated cloud service, which requires no on-premise framework, such as Steve was saying, or any management overhead. So there is no managing the monitoring solution itself. The service is located within OCI. We take care of all of the instrumentation and all of the collections of logs. We cover any security aspects that you might have to be aware of when monitoring databases and some of that telemetry. So everything requires no additional overhead for managing the solution itself. So it's a quick way to get started in monitoring your database resources without having that additional overhead and management for the cloud solution or for your monitoring solution. And so you can quickly get insights into the monitoring of your entire fleet. And so it's a very large scale deployments that we're looking at, or even small scale. So if you have multiple databases supporting different applications, you can view them all in one location. You have capabilities of running at scale. So you can run jobs against multiple databases with similar capabilities, or even if you're pulling configuration information or job status, you can pull that through the service and have it in one secure location for you to manage your databases.
So, Derek, being a former DBA myself, my favorite benefit about this service is it's fast and easy. When I was a DBA and I had to set up these different tools and different agents and get extra hardware, it would take us weeks to sometimes months to be monitoring things. Now, literally in minutes, whether you're a developer, DevOps, or DBA, or others for that matter, this is much easier and faster to use.
Yes, indeed. It is very nice to get started very quickly. And then, yeah, the onboarding process is very easy with your basic connection to the database to pull that information back. So yeah, it is very nice to have that. And so for the database management itself, so we've really taken what's available within the Oracle database kernel itself, and we have backend instrumentation and tools that are already available there. But we've really built upon those to provide rich visualizations within an interface that will allow you to spot any issues within your database fleet very quickly. You can see configuration data. You can see your monitoring status for all of your resources in a single location, and then you can quickly find any alarms that might be occurring within your databases. This is integration into the OCI monitoring service. So if you do have any issues, you can quickly drill down, see what specifically is happening within your database, and really go from there for monitoring your fleet. We provide historic activity where you can view. We also have real-time data here, and then you can have a comparison between the two. So you can look at how your databases have been performing the past hour or the past day and compare that to the previous day or the previous week even to see that analysis and if there's any growth with your database capacity or if any trend within your key metrics, you'll be able to quickly spot those and address any issues you have there. And so looking at kind of the fleet overview, we also provide kind of additional rich interfaces. I believe there's a lag in that one. Or well, I'll probably show it here in a little bit later, but yeah, we'll be able to see some of the capabilities we have in the fleet overview. Some of the other great things here is we have a cloud native solution here. So it's fully managed by Oracle, as we had said. We have cloud elasticity, so your monitoring costs are actually based on the allocations to your database. So if you're doing any scaling operations within your fleet, you'll be able to realize that immediately. So there is no licensing costs that are associated here. It's all included within our SKUs and our subscription for the service itself. And so the key use cases really you're taking away is we do provide those key performance monitoring in real time. We provide multi-cloud and hybrid deployments. If you do have on-premise, you can view everything in one single location to really ease your management of your database fleet. And so then looking at some of the key features, and we'll kind of dive deeper down into this as we go into the presentation. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on this slide, but basically, again, we'll be looking at that large fleet overview with a lot of out-of-the-box capabilities, including dashboards, so you can quickly see how the performance of your databases as well as the infrastructure that supports them. You can customize these dashboards so you can quickly get what you need out of it if you have different use cases that you want to monitor for your databases. We provide performance diagnostics in real time. So for those of you who have Enterprise Manager, we do provide Performance Hub capabilities, Ash Analytics, ADDM analysis, AWR reports. And upon that, you'll see kind of a theme of building visualizations into the service itself, and then some advanced capabilities with new tools that we have integrated and built to support the Oracle database. And finally, we will see some database administration tasks. So if you have storage management that you need to perform, any user kind of views, we provide that as well to kind of quickly get started with monitoring and managing your database in the cloud. A lot of it's guided by GUIs. So if you have more junior staff or even developers, they can perform some of these tasks that are traditionally been done by DBAs to kind of help them with the database management.
Hey, Derek, we got a couple of questions coming in. They're very similar. Already folks are wanting to kind of know about cost. I know you're going to probably get into more details at the end, but can you just say something real quickly about kind of the fee structure?
Yeah, so we basically charge based on the OCPUs that you have allocated for databases within the cloud. And it's by hour. So every hour you have the service enabled, we'll charge you 0.05 cents for the cloud databases. And then for external databases, we have similar pricing where we also include the hourly rates, but you can have a BYOL option if you're using diagnostics and tuning. But really, everything is included with the cloud SKUs. If you don't have to have your own packs you bring in, there are no licensing around those. So basically, you subscribe to the service, you can unsubscribe at any time, and we charge based on the hour. So really, you can use it as you go and as you need it.
No, that's great. And again, you mentioned the very deep database instrumentation that this leverages, which is something you typically don't see in other observability solutions. So lots of depth and lots of things that you can do. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and continue and share some more with a lot of new folks?
Yeah, no, sounds great, man. So looking at the fleet management for your databases, so this is where I was discussing kind of that overview. You can view all of your resource utilization in one single location for your entire fleet, deployed anywhere. And then we also have additional capabilities that would very similar to our infrastructure, and then MySQL, which we'll see in a little bit later within the session. And so we also provide the capability, again, building the rich visualizations on these databases. So we can see within the fleet, quickly looking at a tree map view, you're able to see which databases are consuming more resources than the others. And then you can also kind of arrange these based on infrastructure or based on database groups that you're looking at to see which databases are consuming the most of your resources. So for instance, if you had an Exadata infrastructure that's supporting 100 databases, you'd be able to tag all of those with kind of your Exadata infrastructure that they're running on. You'd be able to view all of these in one location, so you can quickly find any outliers that might be running more heavily on the I/O or on CPU and kind of address those issues from there. You can also kind of get an indication of how these are growing as well, or the resource utilization. So the size is indicative of how much it's utilizing, but then the color actually shows you to what capacity is changing. So for the darker colors, we see like the blue colors, they have an increased usage when you're comparing it to the previous period. So it could be yesterday's activity or the week before. So you kind of get an indication of which databases might be hitting a bottleneck sooner than others. And once you do, if you are to find any issues within your fleet, you can quickly drill down into a specific database and perform any administration tasks you need or any performance tuning for that database itself. So the database resource page, is I like because it's all in one single location. You can perform multiple tasks and kind of go between different uh, capacities that you need to when you're administrating your database. So we have a summary here showing your availability, monitoring the resource, and then you get your average active sessions. So all of the database time that's being consumed from the application, you can quickly see if there's any spikes. And then you can relate this again to the other key metrics around I/O or memory usage or storage that you have for your database. We have the alert log views here, and then we can look at some of the performance capabilities, which we'll kind of dive deeper a little bit later in the session, as well as some of your management capabilities and then the integration into OCI itself. So administration tasks for your databases, if you have credentials you want to manage for these resources in the cloud, if you want to create alarms with the integration into OCI monitoring service, you can quickly do that with alarm templates that we provide. So we really want you to be able to get started very quickly monitoring your resources within the database management service. And we also have integration with other services within the observability and management platform. So if you want to look at capacity planning, we have quick links with contextual links to the resources for viewing their capacity usage or forecasting, but also logging analysis. So if you want to look at in-depth logging, you can kind of go to those services and quickly realize those issues there. So kind of one of the newer features that we have, and another key point that I'd like to make here is that we don't really have specific release schedules. So we have an active roadmap that we're continually working and taking feedback from customers like yourselves. And if there's any changes or any new gaps that you have with monitoring, you can have those questions and we can integrate that into the roadmap, actively work on it, and then deploy it as soon as those are ready. So it's not every 3 months or every 2 months or every month we have new releases. We continually work on it, and whenever they're available, they're pushed out immediately, and there's no upkeep or any actions that you need to perform on your end to actually realize those new capabilities. So we did release data guard monitoring within the last month, so you can view the health of your data guard environments, get quick analysis of the configuration details, and see if there's any issues between your apply lag, transport lag, and redo apply rate, and quickly kind of drill down to see what might be causing those issues. So for the performance diagnostics, we have some similar capabilities. Performance Hub is really the main place that you want to see your real-time activity for your database. So this is going to be indicating all of your individual work coming from your application or from internal database, all displayed within the screen, showing how much resources each of those are taking and kind of viewing it in real time as well. So you get your Ash Analytics, so all of your session details, the specific queries that they're running on the database, and then you have a breakdown of how much each of those SQL queries are actually taking. So you can quickly find if there's any spikes in your activity, heavy I/O from a specific query, or heavy CPU utilization. You can drill down into those queries specifically to get additional details as well, such as execution plans, your different plan hash values that you're running for the individual statements, and then get additional statistics on that so you can see what those plans are for gathering the data, as well as any performance related around those. And so we also have built-in capabilities with SQL monitoring for details on what's running on the database today and now. And then we've integrated the blocking sessions as well as ADDM, and then you can kick off ADDM reports, SQL reports, or AWR reports here as well. And so what we're looking at here is the performance for the top activity light. So if you have a database that's you're monitoring, we basically pull all of the data in for the past hour. We can build that rich visualization, and then any new refreshes to that is a quick capture and then addition. So we're not reloading the page every single time. So we're reducing the load and the overhead for the monitoring tool itself. And so if you are having performance problems on your database, we're not contributing to it. We're really kind of doing the lightest way possible of showing you what's happening in real time, so you can have those capabilities of managing your database.
So Derek, pause here for a second. We got a lot of new folks, and they may not be DBAs. So you used a lot of terminology that's familiar with, DBAs that, they've been utilizing for example, with Enterprise Manager for years. That deep instrumentation, essentially almost like an expert model or even machine learning that's been built into the database kernel, is being tapped into with this particular service. Now, the benefit here, Derek, is previously you had to like go bug the DBA, and the DBA might have to have these extra packs licensed to get this type of instrumentation. Now, anyone using the service, including developers, are able to get this very rich information all the way down to the SQL level. So again, I think this is a tremendous benefit to those folks who, they're writing those applications and they want to see what's happening as they're updating their SQL code. Now they can do that kind of on their own with the power of essentially these capabilities you're showing.
Yeah, exactly. And really, that's one of the keys is we're taking what we have as experts really for Oracle because we provide all of the new toolings, all the new capabilities, and we're able to work with them to integrate that quickly into our service to provide that to customers, again, without much overhead from managing the monitoring solution.
The other thing, just briefly to mention for folks that think monitoring or see other vendors say, "Hey, we do Oracle database monitoring." We're not apples to apples here. This is where we are actually doing very deep observability from that built-in instrumentation that's in the databases, and so we're not just going monitoring something after the fact. This is happening real time, so you're able to get insight that previously you just didn't have access to.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. It's a great point, Steve. Thank you. And so, as we're discussing kind of these in-depth analysis and traditionally a lot of data, a lot of expertise that you need to have whenever you're running through database performance is the AWR. So this is basically taking everything we saw within the previous slide that's being charted and graphed out with all these waited times, but we're adding additional details, granularity into the performance of your database and kind of providing it into one single report. And so this is all text-based, very difficult to read. You have to be very familiar with AWRs and really an expert to consume all of the data and then find the issues with your database through this. And so historically, all of these wait times are basically taken at intervals of 15 minutes or an hour, and then they're kind of consolidated and then averaged out so you can kind of see how your database is performing at a specific time. And so when generating these reports, you'd have to generate one at a time to see what's going on in your database because over longer periods of time, you're kind of averaging out a lot of your spikes in activity or performance degradation for your database. And so to really clearly see what the picture is for your database performance, we've taken these same values and we've kind of split it out into this graphic visualization over time. So we can see each individual report still, but over longer periods of time to really find any spikes or any outliers with your database performance through the metrics and the specific wait events that are occurring whenever you're running your application workload against it. So we've integrated with the wait events, but we also have load profiles so you can actually see what's going on in your database with your IO or your CPU utilization or logons and things like that. And also associated with the metrics for the database and kind of provided everything in one single location where you can visually see the performance of your database and really find any issues and address anything that might be going on for your database. And we provide the capability of generating additional reports from here. So you could look at the AWR details, you can look at ADDM. And so really these advanced capabilities, such as the AWR Explorer that I'm showing, really provides kind of new capabilities of looking at the way the database performance and management has been done in the past and really building upon that.
So you kind of touched upon it, Derek, but again, if you're running on OCI, not only are you getting the deep telemetry from the database instrumentation, you're also getting the infrastructure instrumentation because this service is integrated to the observability and management platform, that Derek mentioned at the beginning of the call. So whereas people in the past have had to, Derek, go to like the system administrator to get kind of that kind of information, it's all pulled together for you. So again, these are the things we mean when we used adjectives like, advanced diagnostics or, advanced insights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really providing these key capabilities, tying everything together for you, and kind of providing it to really minimize the amount of time it takes to do that root cause analysis and really be more proactive in the management of your databases rather than always kind of looking back at what happened and trying to fix it from that point.
And Derek, one other teaser for folks at the end. We'll be sharing a link where you'll be able to actually get access to try this out for yourself. So stay tuned. Derek's got a lot more to come.
Yeah, definitely. And so if you were to find any issues running on your database, looking at some of the performance diagnostics we went over, we have a quick integrated solution for managing and doing performance tuning for your database here. And so what I like about this is it's all within one location within your database resource page that we saw earlier, but we kind of have these GUI guided workflows. So you don't have to be running on the back end, running a lot of different database jobs or packages to actually do this. You can really run through the GUI and get all of the detailed analysis done and kind of go through a workflow where you kind of package all of your database queries together into one single object on the database, which would be a SQL tuning set. So if you want to have a specific application module that you're looking at, or a session, or a specific statement that you want to look at, you can bring all of the details around that, all the performance metadata, and then really utilize that for kind of bulk SQL analysis and improvement in tuning. So here we can see there's many different capabilities of pulling in the data, but really if you want to look at a specific application, you can do that. And so once you have created that object with all of the details on how your application is performing, all of your database queries, you can run that and utilize the SQL Tuning Advisor. So really staying within the same context and console, you can quickly go in, find your SQL tuning set that you created, and then run the SQL Tuning Advisor against it to get the recommendations for improving your database SQL. So instead of having to have the expertise on how the indexes are configured in your environment, or if there's any join orders, or if there's any other issues within your database, this will kind of go through that and find that best plan to execute against your database and pull that data back. Once you've created that SQL plan, you can view the SQL plans in your database and really get an idea of how performant those are. And so, as I had discussed earlier, the theme around visualizing a lot of the historic database tools and capabilities, we've provided the visualization here where you can see when those baselines were last executed that you have SQL plans for and how those are configured. So you can quickly see if the ones that you've integrated in your environment are being utilized, if there's any old ones out there that are no longer valid, or if you have kind of updates to their existing SQL plan. So if you have your Exadata and you're using that SQL Evolve Advisor to find new plans and integrate that into your workflow, you can kind of track how everything's going. And so we have the view for the monitoring, but we also provide some of the administration capabilities as well. So you can configure if you have automatic plan capture enabled for your database, so it does it on the back end and utilizing that instrumentation that we talked about earlier and kind of having it out of the box for you. And then finally, I would kind of have similar capabilities with Optimizer statistics. So you can view the health of your statistics for your database objects. And then we've also built on top of that an advisor to show you if there's any database tables that might be improve the execution if the Optimizer statistics are unlocked on those, or some other scenarios where we'll actually provide you the commands to run and you can run them through the console itself to make those changes to those database objects for improving your optimizer, because really the optimizer is planning how your database execution for your queries work. And so the best stats for your optimizer will have the best outcome for your database workload. And so I won't spend a whole lot of time on database administration, but I wanted to show some of the capabilities that we do have here. So if you do have again, a lot of the theme is the visualization, the GUI, the ease of access. for administrating your database tasks within database management. So here we have a view of all of the users in your database. You can quickly see lock date, expiration date, kind of the profile that they're associated with, and as well as some other key attributes here. So it's kind of one single location and source of truth where you can kind of manage it, but also administer your database. We have data file for storage administration. So here we're looking at adding a data file to an existing table space, but you can create table spaces here. You can alter those. You can add data files. You can extend data files. And so we basically guide you through on how to run that storage operation. So you don't have to be on the back end having all the syntax that you have to keep track of for altering your data files or TIM files. We provide all of that to you here. And finally, the job automation at scale. So if you have multiple databases that you're running on, you can have them all in one single group. So if you have multiple databases supporting a production environment or a specific workflow, or if you have similar deployments with the same code, you can make operations against those databases in bulk. So you'd be able to create a job that runs out there one time or scheduled intervals where you can pull data back or make changes to your database, where you can quickly store that outcomes into one bucket within your object storage. And then so you have long-term secure access to how your database groups administration tasks are performing, or your collections. If you're doing DevOps work scenarios, really it's applicable for a lot of different workflows with administrating your databases. And so I know we have quite a few people that are utilizing Exadata. So I want to go into some of the Exadata infrastructure details that we have here. So some of these fleet overviews, they're going to be very similar to what we showed earlier with the Oracle fleet. But basically, we want to provide kind of an inventory view for all of your fleet Exadata components. And then we want to show you kind of a consolidated resource utilization across all of them. So you get an idea of how healthy your entire Exadata fleet is. As well as if there's going to be any capacity issues for specific resources to support all of your databases. And so from the consolidated view, we also have the table below, which kind of shows the individual rack configurations as well as their key metric utilization. So if you are going to be hitting some bottlenecks with some overutilized resources, you can quickly identify which ones those are, and then also identify maybe some underutilized Exadata racks where you can move database migration. You can start the database migration activities here, kind of planning what you need to do before you hit some of those issues within your Exadata fleet. And so from here, it's kind of a similar capability of drilling down for a single database. And the database fleet, we also provide that for your infrastructure as well. So for your storage infrastructure, you're able to see the storage server grid information with the individual storage servers as well. So you kind of get an idea of how healthy and performant your Exadata storage infrastructure is, and get an idea quickly with the visualizations of how healthy it is. And so we break down all of the details here, showing your different key metrics for your Exadata storage, and then looking at your individual disks as well, and kind of seeing how performant those are, if there's any issues or any problems or any configuration details that you need to take care of. We all provide that here. And so we'll see kind of additional capabilities built in the Performance Hub here in a little bit. But going to the database system monitoring, so we've kind of covered the databases. We've looked at your Exadata infrastructure, but then the database system. So you're looking at all of the components that support your database, such as your cluster, cluster nodes, your ASM instances, and your listeners. So we've kind of brought all of those together under one single resource view where you can see how healthy those are. So if you have any dependencies for your databases on specific ASM, you'd quickly be able to realize if ASM down, obviously your databases aren't going to be up either for your storage. So you can kind of find where the root cause is for any problems on your database system. And so from here, we've also built in advanced monitoring for your ASM instances and the health and performance of those. So you can quickly see the different I/O throughput for your separate databases, as well as the disk groups that are associated with, and kind of see all of this monitoring at a higher level, and then dive down into that deeper level where you need it to kind of really get to that root cause very quickly. And here's kind of a view of all of your databases together. So you can see all the databases that are being supported by the infrastructure all in one single location to quickly assess the health of your databases running here. And so then looking at some of the performance diagnostics for Exadata. So we saw the storage infrastructure based on the system views, but here we also expose additional details for that in-depth Exadata analysis within the Exadata tab of Performance Hub. So if you have a container database running on your Exadata dedicated environments or on premise, you can go into Exadata and you should see an additional tab there that shows these Exadata stats. And so the key here is, again, visualization. You can quickly find any outliers, any issues with your I/O for your databases, how healthy your flash cache is performing, and how healthy your disks are, and your storage servers kind of in one single location. And you can identify any hotspots that might be running on your infrastructure or any databases that might be consuming more resources than others. So we can kind of see these details with the top consumers, kind of tracking all of your requests coming through for your databases. And you can drill down from here to kind of view where the performance might be coming from. Are you having excessive queries, excessive table scans, or something else going on within your database that's kind of increasing or driving the increase to your performance degradation for your environment? You can see kind of the overview of your cells again, looking across the board and quickly visualize if there's any latency that might be spiking for a specific storage server, or maybe if one had gone down, you can see increases on the other two, and kind of get that idea of how performant your infrastructure is for your databases. You can look at, again, not only from the storage servers cells, but then from the individual disks. So you can see if there's any outliers for a single disk on the I/O, which you might be running into either configuration issues or maybe even hardware failure that might be occurring or about to occur for some of the disks supporting your storage servers. And finally, you can see how your smart I/O is performing, your flash cache, if everything is configured correctly, or if there's any databases that are consuming more than others, and kind of get an idea of how performant this is in one single location. And again, instead of having to go through line by line of numbers and details, you quickly see the visualization here, which really you can find the outliers within your performance of your Exadata. And then we can see kind of the configuration details of your Exadata and associate that with some of your ASN disk groups and some of the capacity that's attributed to those, and some of the configuration details for those ASM disk groups as well. And so I won't spend a whole lot of time on the MySQL monitoring, but did want to include it for anybody who's potentially looking into MySQL or currently utilizing it today. So we do have HeatWave performance monitoring within the database management service. So we have the fleet overview, where you can quickly see, again, inventory, monitoring status, and kind of resource utilization for your individual HeatWave nodes, HeatWave clusters, or just MySQL systems that are running within OCI. And we'll soon bring this to external as well. So if you have on-prem MySQL, you'll be able to monitor that within the service itself as well. Again, we have the same capabilities of drilling down into an individual resource. You can kind of get more additional details on the metrics for the database and configuration details with your variables and any additional metrics that you might need to look at. And again, drilling down into Performance Hub, we do have these capabilities for MySQL, so you can see top statements that are running, kind of driving the performance for your MySQL databases. Additional details for the statements, so you can see the SQL queries that are running. You can see the analysis of those with the execution time, how they're performing, if they're utilizing indexes correctly or not, and kind of some of those top level details, but then also kind of the lower level details as well on one single location. So you can see the performance for your MySQL fleet and single databases.
But again, this has always been the age-old problem between the DBA and the developer is the DBA would find some type of performance impacting issue and say, oh, it's a SQL issue, and point it over to the developer. And then the developer would say, no, my SQL is fine. And my tool says, this. And so, these war room days are over because now everybody has the same visibility and is able to help solve the problems much quicker, which lessens the impact on customers or prevents it altogether, which is even better, Derek. So again, as you go through all these capabilities, we really encourage folks to go try out the service and see for yourselves. So just wanted to jump in there with that, Derek.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Those are all great points. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head is we really want to provide this to every user within OCI, be it the DBAs, developers, or even executives who need insights into how their database fleet is performing, and really provide that in some easy, digestible information where they can quickly make those choices, find those issues, and resolve them very quickly. And so kind of leading into the additional features we have. So we didn't obviously cover all of these, but I want to kind of bring everything together so you can kind of see all the capabilities that we provide. For those of you using Enterprise Manager, you'll see a lot of similarities because we have taken what we offer within Enterprise Manager, brought it to the cloud as that native solution, and really wanted to provide that to customers who don't want to have that on-premise monitoring solution for their environments. So reducing the overhead for monitoring your databases or your database fleet and provide the new capabilities coming out very quickly to kind of, provide that in all one single location. And so I do have a quick demonstration here. Let me jump over here. Looks like, so like you had said, the hands-on lab will be very similar to what we're offering here. So you can actually go through and do this yourself. You can see our services provided here within the observability management. You can see all of our integrated services. And then we have database management located here where you can kind of get the insights into which Oracle databases you have enabled out of your total fleet. You also have your MySQL here. And then we also have quickly getting started. So if you have any additional details or information, all of this is included in our documentation, so you can quickly find either pricing or documentation to get started very quickly. As I was saying earlier, this is our Oracle database fleet overview, kind of showing the single location for all of your databases that have been deployed and configured for database management. And you'll notice we actually have the new container database with the pluggable databases, children databases underneath. You can quickly find any outliers within your databases, finding how they're performing with your average active sessions here, with your CPU allocation, and of course the trend analysis, which is kind of shown here. The larger details they're going to be pointed out. So our iOS significantly dropped for some of these environments with the comparison period. So if you did have an event earlier that has resolved since, you'd be able to quickly see that your iOS dropped. We also provide, again, the performance details of looking at your individual databases, viewing which ones are consuming more resources in this tree map visualization, and then drilling down into an individual database for additional details. So we can drill down into the database, and this is where we get that view of all the different tools that we have developed, as well as all of the individual console and UI and GUIs that we can launch from here to manage this single database. So we can see the rack CDB, and we can view all the instances associated with it and kind of split this up under different instances for your rack deployments. And then we can view all of the PDBs, and I'm not sure if I have any PDBs actually discovered for this one because this is actually the physical standby that we're looking at here. So we can go in and we can view the physical database that we're looking at for the primary. And so we have a linkage to the data guard here as well, which I actually wanted to show you. So this is kind of the view of all of our capabilities. So you can go all to your performance diagnostics and tuning capabilities. You have all of your management capabilities here. And we have your administration tasks as well within OCI. So kind of drilling down into the data guard views, you can quickly see the configuration details for your databases, if your data card broker is enabled, what mode you're open in, kind of the configuration of your protection, and then if you have fast start failover enabled. And then you can view that the different metrics for your standby syncing. So you can view the apply lag or transport lag and redo apply rate. And then you can kind of view what's being generated on production to see if you're consistently meeting those demands for syncing the resources. And if you have multiple databases enabled for a single database, multiple standbys, you'd be able to see all of them here and quickly get a health assessment of the performance. So then going into the Performance Hub, let me quickly go back to one of our other databases that's not a standby. We can launch the Performance Hub from here. We can have it load up and we'd be able to see all of your average active sessions for your database running here with all of the details and analysis of the different sessions running in them. And so this is a relatively lightly used environment, but you can still see kind of your details, your different wait events that are associated with the database. So we don't have a whole lot of I/O here, so you can quickly identify that most of the queries running are all CPU related. And if you have any issues, it's really going to be CPU bound that's going to be associated with that. And so you can also see your individual user sessions. If you have a specific module running from your application generating most of the workload, you'd quickly be able to find it and kind of address any of those issues that might be running. We also have the integration of our other tools here as well. So you can run SQL Tuning Advisor here for the SQL detail. So you can quickly kind of launch it with the different parameters and really kind of have that run, see if it improves with any recommendations, and kind of monitor as you go the performance capability of your environment. So I think that was basically the high level overview. I guess I will quickly show some of the dashboard capabilities that we have within OCI in general. So we utilize the dashboard framework. So you'll be able to quickly see and customize all of your database dashboards here, or even other infrastructure dashboards. And we have cross-service integrations, so you can take logging analysis with application performance management, with your database management, and kind of bring those all together in one single dashboard to kind of utilize that for monitoring your environments. And so you can quickly see your different average active sessions, your CPU weights, your current logons, and really customize this to however you want to view your database performance.
And Derek, just a time check. We've got about 4 minutes left.
Yep, no, perfect. And so I was going to hop straight back over to the presentation. So we do have a new limit availability feature coming out within database management. It's the SQL Watch. It'll be releasing GA actually very shortly here within the next few weeks. But basically what we're bringing over as a cloud service would be a lot of the capabilities within real application testing. This first phase was going to be a lot of your workload analysis, so you can see how performance your database code is, and then track that through any changes for your database configuration. So if you're going through upgrades or application code changes or any object changes on your database or parameter configuration, you can capture a workflow before the change, assess it after the change in kind of a duplicated environment or a test environment, and validate that the change will have no impact to your application running on your database. So you can kind of have the confidence in upgrading your database and validating that no impact will be made to the performance of your database over that change. And so this is really helpful if you're going through major database version upgrades or even application code changes. If you want to really track those changes and make any improvements before it goes live into production, you're able to do that here. We kind of consolidate all this together and bring it into a repository for long-term view.
Yeah, really exciting capability. I know customers have just been wanting this for quite a while. So yeah, excited to see it. We really need to move towards kind of a wrap up, give folks kind of a where they can go for more resources. And then we've got to close with a poll.
Oh, yeah. So the things to remember, again, we wanted to have that management solution that can monitor databases deployed anywhere, multi-cloud, on-premise, and have no overhead of that monitoring solution itself. So really bringing everything together without any overhead capabilities for or management capabilities for your database monitoring. So we also kind of include the best of the best of what we have for Oracle databases, kind of integrated into the tool itself. So you have kind of the new capabilities built by experts to monitor your database environments. And a lot of these you won't find anywhere else for managing your databases. And finally, we want the integrated monitoring capabilities with other observability management platforms, services within the cloud. So you have that correlation between database performance with your logs, and you have capabilities of your future forecasting and capacity planning with your Ops Insight service, kind of all integrated within the Oracle Cloud services we provide. And finally, here is that more resources details. So you can get more information by going to oracle.com and viewing the database management service. We do have videos posted on YouTube for a playlist, so you can get more ideas into our resources, how to get started quickly. All those capabilities are located there. New features can be seen within our blogs, and so we're kind of tracking all this for the service itself. So if you wanted to subscribe to that, see what's coming out, kind of get more information on what's available, those are there. You can get started quickly with our documentation. And finally, as Steve said, we have the hands-on lab, so you can get started with the cloud infrastructure database management service. So you can kind of get your hands on and get a feel for the service itself.
Yeah, that's a unique capability. And Derek, thank you for all that great information as we start to wrap up today. But yeah, the Live Labs is pretty unique to Oracle. That's a fully running environment. We don't know other vendors offering that capability. You can go there today. You can try it out. You can have your team members try it out at no cost to yourself, learn the capabilities that Derek was talking about. And you have nothing to lose. This is, a cloud service. So go try out the service. And if you decide it's not meeting your needs, well, then you don't have to keep the service. But we hope that you do, especially if you want to keep your databases highly performant, as well as continue to innovate with your databases. And Derek's got a lot of great resources here that you can do some, self-learning. Of course, an Oracle representative would love to speak to you, and you can reach out to yours if you want to do so. We won't be doing that, and we'd love to see you out at Cloud World. So certainly come look Derek up, join his hands-on lab, come look at one of the demonstrations there. Lots is happening in this area, and we're really glad that you were able to join us together. Join us today.
Right, awesome
Yes, thank you.
session. Thank you, Derek and Stephen. Really appreciate your time and help with the session. Just one more thing. Our next session is actually tomorrow on building Gen AI solutions on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure at 10 a.m. Pacific. So we will cover various Gen AI services that OCI developers have at their fingertips today. So we hope to all see you tomorrow.